This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
This program is brought to you by Movement Solutions and Soaring Wings Vineyard and Brewery. I'm Diane Silva, and today my guest is Captain Jim Shaw of Soaring Wings Winery and Brewery. Did I say it right?
Yeah, pretty close.
Okay. Captain Jim has graciously agreed to come on, and he will be our first airline pilot that we've had on, so we can really get to the meat and potatoes of some of the burning questions I've had, some of the burning questions other people have had, and get a perspective from someone who's really dealing with passengers as well as handling the aircraft. So if you wouldn't mind, Captain Jim, could you give us a history of yourself?
Well, I kind of grew up here in Omaha, South Omaha boy. Went to Bryan High School, University of Nebraska at Omaha, was an Air Force pilot for several years, and joined a major airline 28 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I started flying in 1977. I got about 15,000-ish hours. I don't really track it too well anymore. And I fly 767s, usually around the world.
Wow. Now that's interesting, and this kind of leads me into one of my burning questions is, you said around the world, so you're talking these longer flights. How would you prepare? Let's start with how would you prepare for those? How would you prepare for one of the longer flights?
Well, as a pilot, we're constantly being trained.
Okay.
Every 9 months at the company I work for, we go through a simulator training, and every 3 or 4 months we're getting packages of material to study and test on. So our knowledge level has to be held at a pretty high level. Each region of the world operates slightly differently, so you have to know those different regions or how to refer to the reference materials to know the proper way to operate in that country that you're going into. Like China, they operate on meters, not on feet. So we have to change the way we do our altitude control when we fly into China. It's stuff like that that we try to stay sharp on. And even on our flights, we go through our reference material, and I have on my tablet, I have over 14,000 pages of material. Wow. In that tablet that cover everything that I'm supposed to know or do. So.
How do you, I just look at 14,000 pages, how do you keep track? Okay, give me China or give me Malaysia or...
Well, not all of it is something you have to have memorized. Okay, well, I'm going to China, I look for the specific China differences that time. Mm-hmm. Well, I was flying to Malaysia, I would look at that. In this case, closest I've ever been was Singapore, which is bordering on Malaysia. It's pretty close. And for the most part, travel around the world is pretty safe, and it's something you shouldn't have to worry about from that aspect. The North American air traffic system is the safest in the world. Western Europe is extremely safe. Other systems are still safe, but they're not quite as much radar coverage as we would have in the United States. So you're not always in radar contact when you fly across the ocean. You're often in some form of contact. You have a controlling agency, but they don't really see you except for this new system we have now called CPDLC, which automatically broadcasts your system and position every 10 minutes to the controlling agency. So they know where you're at.
Oh, that's good to know. So, which you're talking overseas, which is really one of the things that has piqued my interest due to the fact that, as people may know, I missed out on a trip to Hawaii, partly because, we got that 6-hour, 5-hour overseas, it kind of is daunting for those of us who have no idea how it all works because, you were over land, okay, there's always a place to land.
Right.
It may not be that suitable, but you can land. Operative word, land. Ocean. What are the regulations, rules, processes, procedures?
Well, actually, I helped develop a lot of those rules earlier in my Airline Pilots Association safety career. It's called ETOPS, which is Extended Twin Engine Operations Over the Water. Originally, we just had 4-engine jets like the 707, 747 flying over the water, and they could basically go anywhere and didn't have to worry too much about their divert airport because if they lost an engine, they could still continue on.
Right.
They still kept an eye on it. As pilots, you always want to know where the nearest airport is that you can land in case you have a a medical emergency or a more acute event that required you to land. However, on ETOPS, when we developed that, we basically told the airlines and the FAA as pilots that we're not comfortable flying 2 engines over these large bodies of water unless you can decrease the amount of engine failures we have or decrease the amount of other types of mechanical failures. So it was a really neat thing when that was developed because we saw engine failures on airline aircraft just go way down. They're a mere fraction of what they used to be.
Wow.
Because to do this ETOPS or extended over water operations, they had to have engine failure rates much lower than what they used to have. So all of air safety got much safer when we employed those rules just on the overwater operation. So yes, we look for which airports we're going to fly to if we have this kind of failure or that kind of failure. And we have what we call suitable airports, the weather's good and we can get in there. Emergency airports and mainline airports. We like to go to a mainline airport if we can divert, but we have those emergency airports in our back pocket in case things are a little bit more acute.
Okay, cool. So I was reading up where they have like the 60-minute rule, the 90-minute rule, the
120 and 180, yeah, and there's actually 210. Yeah, and that's exactly what I worked on. We looked at, all right, initially our ETOPS went up to 60 minutes from the shore, and we had to have an engine failure rate at such and such point and other mechanical failures at such and such point. Well, the airlines knew that if they could get that farther out, they could save a lot of money in gas and actually hopefully reduce airfares to some degree. And so they pushed for it, and we said, okay, well now you got to get the failure rate down to this level, which was much lower. And they did it. And then it said, well, let's go out to 180 minutes. And so, well, now you have to get down even lower.
Right.
Basically, as pilots and other people in the safety business, we said, well, if you want to add more risk, you have to greatly reduce all the other risks.
Right.
So that the net risk increase is negative,
Right.
so it decreases. And it's worked really, really well.
This program is brought to you by Movement Solutions and Soaring Wings Vineyard and Brewing.